So, with that, I have a couple of folks who are here with me, and I also have Dave Layman, who you may remember, who you may know from Channel 6 and Channel 10. He believes in civic engagement, and he graciously agreed to step up and moderate tonight's discussion. So, Dave, I'm going to turn it over to you to get this moving.
All right, thank you very much, Governor. I'm pleased to be here, everyone. The Governor's office asked me last week if I would moderate this discussion tonight, and I knew this was a very, very hot topic. And she said that she was looking for somebody who was fair, a reputation to be fair, a reputation for wanting to get a good civil discussion going, and somebody who had dealt with controversial issues before. So I gladly accept it. Let me do a couple check marks here. The first question people in Rhode Island will ask, and it's an appropriate one, is who's paying you and how much are you being paid? I'm here tonight on my own time, for myself and for you. I'm here as an independent. I'm not on either side of this issue. I'm here to facilitate the discussion tonight. For 30 years, I covered controversial meetings like this, like my colleagues with the media, the television media, especially in the back. And one of the threads through meetings like this that I always loved, in spite of what the issue was that I was always amazed that people would come out on their own time and exercise their democratic opportunities and take part in the democratic process, as unwieldy as that sometimes is. One of the things, thank you. One of my favorite paintings, if you will, is a Norman Rockwell painting. And you're not going to be able to see it in the back, but many of you probably have seen it yourselves. It's what's called the painting of Jim Edgerton, sometimes called the For Freedom painting. It's a picture, for those of you who can't see it, of a lone individual, his hat in hand, strangely enough, at a town meeting with a controversial building issue. And the fact that all the people around him vociferously opposed what he was saying, but they showed him the respect and let him speak without being interrupted. So that's a little bit of history behind that. I didn't come here to see a version of the World Wrestling Federation. I came here to see a governor who is willing to listen and people who are willing to talk, but people who are willing to talk civilly. I'm going to make just a couple of points here, not to delay this program at all, but I think it's something that needs to be said. In 2016, I think we have all been demoralized by the lack of civility in the presidential campaign. We have also, in recent weeks, been demoralized by the lack of civility, obviously, and the painful views that we've seen in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, not once but twice, in Nice, France, in Dallas, Texas, and in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where we have seen so much incivility. And ironically, I was a reporter in every one of those markets, and I know those people are better than what was depicted, but it's what happened. With that in mind, here we are in 2016, trying to deal with a very controversial issue that will affect your community potentially, and certainly the state. So what I'd like to see us do is, I'd like to see us have an orderly discussion tonight. And I'm really going to insist on that, because there's a great temptation for people to try to take over an event, either by catcalls or whistling or whatever. We've already seen some of that tonight. That's not civil, and that's not who we are. And Rhode Island Future made a good point. They said this is going to be a big controversial night in Burrillville, but one thing about Burrillville is that they are civilized in their discussions most of the time. And that's what I'm going to insist on tonight, because that's what this deserves. Here's tonight's plan. This is the way we're going to do it. The organizers have kept this relatively civil, so to allow as many people as possible to speak tonight, each speaker who signed up in advance will have 2 minutes to direct their comments to the governor. Now, to get you lined up, I will call out the names of 4 people at a time who signed up to speak, and I will ask them to go to one of the staffers here in the aisles who have microphones. There's one in each aisle. So when I call your name, please come up and just wait, and we'll get to your comment. I also want to be sure you understand that we are going to have a 2-minute time limit on this, and the time will be shown up there on the screen. 2 minutes is not a lot of time. I can tell you from broadcasting, if you could ever get 2 minutes for a story, it was a long piece. But here it is not, and we understand that. But the idea of making it short and simple was to get as many people up here as possible tonight so the governor could listen to what you're saying, and you had the opportunity to have her hear it. So I'm going to strictly enforce that. So 2 minutes is not your signal to wrap up. 2 minutes is your signal to say thank you, and we will appreciate it. I'm going to ask you something else, and this may be difficult for some of you. You are going to want to applause for people who agree with you and boo people who don't. You would not expect that of your students who attend this high school, and if you attended it, they wouldn't put up with it. We don't want to do that tonight. A lot of people who are going to speak here tonight have never spoken publicly before, and if they have, they've never spoken to 600 people before. Yes. What I want to see these people do is get up. We're going to hold the microphone for them so they can look at their note and make their point as comfortably as they can. If we diminish that in any way, forget Norman Rockwell. This was just a good thought, but we didn't exercise it. So we'll ask you to come up, do your 2 minutes. If you go over 2 minutes, I'm going to have to cut you off so we can go to the next person. And the reason is, if everybody goes over, people at the end of this evening will not be able to be heard. So we're trying to be fair and we're trying to be civil. Can I get an okay on that? We also know, and this is something that we all regret, that we can't hear from everybody. But those of you who are not able to address the governor tonight, there are signs around here, and will be up on the screen. We are encouraging you to submit whatever comments you might make tonight to the governor's office or directly to the siting board, and they will review what you wanted to say here tonight. I appreciate your indulging me, but I want to keep this orderly. I want to do this in the Norman Rockwell tradition and not in any other tradition. So let us begin. I have 4 people here who I'd like to call up.
Could we please be introduced?
Oh yes, excuse me. Thank you very much. Let me also introduce other people who are up here. They are representatives within the administration. You may know Carol Grant. She is the Commissioner of the Office of Energy Resources. Deputy Commissioner Nick Ucci with the Office of Energy Resources. Associate Director Terry Grant, Department of Environmental Management. And then we have a lady,
Ellen O'Reilly, Executive Director at the Health Department.
She is the Executive Director of the Department of Health. So they're here to listen. They are really here to listen to you as well, rather than have the governor have to give them, a transcript or notes from this event. So they're here to listen as well, but it's the governor who primarily, I think, is the one who's going to be doing the listening tonight, and maybe some occasional comments. So without further ado, and I thank you for doing this, and by the way, Governor, if you don't mind, I'm going to add a couple of extra minutes to this forum tonight because of the time that I took, but I thought it was a worthwhile time asking for your indulgence and your respect for the speakers.